Hello everyone, I wanted to give an update here and excuse the noise. We have kids playing in the background and people doing yard work. So I have these hydrangeas in pots that flanked both sides of this door. So here's one example here, and I had one on this side and the pot cracked because the wind had blown this door open into it. So this pot had cracked, and what I had done is I took a mallet and very carefully kind of deconstructed the pot. You know, I have glasses on, but I would recommend if you do that, use goggles and be very careful. So kind of took that apart with the mallet, and then I planted it here. So this hydrangea, I believe, is a phantom. I could be wrong because I purchased it off of Facebook Marketplace from somebody who was selling them both. And actually, it blooms these beautiful white panicles. But what was really annoying is that I have to keep watering them in the summer really regularly. So I actually think it's actually going to be better for me to have this in the ground. I didn't realize like kind of how large it was until I got it in the ground here. And now I'm debating if I should be putting it in my shrub border here along this wall. Because if I show you my shrub border, I'm trying to kind of lessen the impact of this big retaining wall here. And the center focal point is this red twig dogwood. And you can see on either side, so I've got boxwood, and I've got a willow salix on both sides as well. So since I have two of those hydrangeas, I was thinking I could put one on this end and one on this end. And that would kind of complete the shrub border there. So of course, I didn't realize that until after I had already planted this. So that's something that I would then have to take this out of its pot, which is not easy. So that pot isn't broken, but it's kind of worse for wear. The paint is coming off. So I think it might be nice to have that in the ground and not have to worry about watering as much. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you is that I picked up a bunch of Hellebores at Home Depot, and I got, I think, 5 of them. They're the Ice and Roses red and pink variety. They both look pretty similar actually. Let's take a closer look. And I have this shady area against the wall. I used to have a rose here, but that's gone now, so I had to replace it. And I thought these will do really well here. So I got 3 planted, and I'm debating putting the last 2 there as well and kind of just complete this. I just didn't want it to look too much, but I think it'll look good there. So yeah, so I might do that. And then I did split some Hosta, and I put one here and I put one there to kind of start replacing the ones that I lost in this garden bed. So this is my pulmonaria. I transplanted it, and you can see it's looking very sad. I'm going to give it some water and it should perk right back up. But lots happening in this garden bed. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do, is I'll try to transplant this into here. And my only concern is, will it get enough sun? Because as you can see right now, it isn't sun, and this area is currently in shade, but it may get sufficient sunlight in the early part of the day. So I think it's worth a try. All right, so we have an update. I managed to dig it out of this spot here. It wasn't very rooted in, luckily, and it was still had a lot of container soil around it, so it was very easy to pull up. So definitely not a problem. Digging the hole here, that soil is pretty rocky and it's pretty bad soil. So the other thing is I had to kind of expose the kind of base of it. So just you could see all the little surface roots there. I kind of like moved away as much of the soil as I could because I don't want it to be smothered. I'm also going to be putting mulch around it, so I would need to have some space for that. Definitely don't want the crown of the plant to be rotting here, so definitely wanted to pull away some of the dirt. The plant itself looks really healthy right now, and it's getting some sun, so that's good. And now the tough part is I'm collecting all the many rocks and putting them in this little bucket. And you can see when this wall went up, there was a lot of like kind of gravel and rocks that came out and are still there. And here I am digging the hole for the next one, and it's tough going. Soil is very rocky, and yeah, luckily it rained not too long ago, so that's one plus, but lot of hard digging, very tough to dig. I don't think I can dig much deeper than that. And then the other thing is getting it out of the pot. This is going to be very tricky. So step number 1 is removing all these decorative rocks from the top, and I'm going to put them in this bin. This is all the other ones from the other container. And I'm going to try to get this out without having to break the pot, but that might be tricky. We may have to end up breaking it. And on the base here, I've got one weed in the middle there, but also some Angelina stonecrop sedum, which is looking very nice, and hopefully I can save that and transplant that somewhere. But first, the rocks. All right, we've got most of the rocks out. They just need a wash and they'll be as good as new. They're basically just white decorative rocks to top dress. And here it is. I took it off the pot feet there. It's going to be a mess. I'm going to try with this little trowel just to kind of loosen the side and see if I can try to get it out without having to smash the pot. But if I do, well, not too big a deal. All right, success. So I managed to pull it out of this pot. So what I did was I took my trowel and kind of took off as much of the top dirt that I could reach down as I could. And then I dug the trowel down around the center of the pot, and then I tipped it over because it was way too heavy for me, so I pulled it out kind of sideways, trying to do as little damage as possible to the branches. And I did lose some leaves, but not too bad. And yes, I can try to salvage that pot. It needs a good wash and then maybe a repaint, but maybe I can use it for something else. There is a pot foot underneath. This whole area is already kind of a mess, so I wasn't too concerned about messing it up even more, because at some point I'm gonna do a sweep and a power wash here. Like it's spring right now, so I'm just gonna wait till the weather warms up a bit. But let's take a look at how root bound this is. So I think even though this plant was doing okay in the pot, like it bloomed every year, it leafed out, it is so root bound. So I think it's gonna be so much happier in the ground. It actually might even be a limelight, so I hope it doesn't get too huge. But at the bottom, you can see close up, they had put some styrofoam at the bottom. I guess as a kind of filler at the bottom, just to like put less soil in. And in addition to the styrofoam, there's landscape fabric on top of that, and then they put the soil on. So interesting. I don't recommend doing that, but they did, so now I have to pick that all out. So that is my next step. Check all this out that I pulled out from underneath this pot. So all the roots had grown through that fabric, which was super annoying. I had to like pull it. It was like deteriorating, so it was caught up in the roots. It was very tough to get that out. And then all of these little styrofoam bits, I kind of felt like they came apart in bits. So yeah, not very good for the plant, not very healthy. So I think this plant is going to be much, much healthier. But you can see the bottom. These like longer roots had grown through that fabric, and it's pretty root bound, so it's going to be very happy in its new spot. And looking at the size of it, I think I have to dig a little bit deeper, so I'm going to do that first before I try to roll this over to its new spot. All right, so I've got it placed. It's a little bit high, but I think I'm going to keep it a little bit high to wash away some of the dirt at the crown, and then for mulching purposes. And I was trying to find the right side. So one part of it is kind of flatter, which was against the shed. And I've kind of faced that forward because even though it's fuller at the back, I do want my guy that comes to cut our grass to have a nice edge there and not have to dodge the branches. And this side will get more sun anyways, so I think it'll fill out more. So what I'm gonna do is kind of take a hose and try to rinse off some of that dirt around the crown, or the soil around the crown, and then we'll fill it back up. Okay, here goes nothing. Got this on the jet setting, so let's see if we can wash away some of the soil. Expose the crown there. Alright, so I got as much soil away from the root ball there, the crown, as I could, which also has the added benefit of giving it a nice water. And now I'm just going to backfill a little bit around there. Alright, we have the hydrangea planted, And you can see I planted it a little bit high. What I have to do for this shrub border next is put in, oh sorry about the sun there, it's afternoon, late afternoon. I'm going to be putting in an edge, and then my plan is to sheet mulch underneath before I put compost in. I have definitely noticed there's way less weeds with sheet mulching, and I just have to go grab some cardboard. I'm going to try to get it from Costco. So we have the 2 hydrangeas planted, and at least for now they're looking good, and hopefully they do well. It is a good time to transplant things, and even though things are leafed out, ideally you would wait till before they're leafed out, but I think it'll be okay. And my only concern is the soil is terrible, but maybe what I'll do is I'll top dress with compost, and then I have some Miracle Grow transplant fertilizer, which is a liquid, and maybe I'll water it in with that for the first watering or so, and that should help. But I think once there's an edge, a defined edge, and it's mulched, it'll look really good. And it's a lot of work, but just sometimes the soil along the wall is not even, it's kind of piled up, so I have to pull that back, and then I have to like deal with the weeds and then even it out. So there is still a lot of work to be done on this shrub border, but it is a good start. And I have this one Heuchera under this bloodgood maple, Japanese maple here, that looks like it heaved over the winter. It's got all kinds of new growth on it, which looks good. But you can see how high it is. See that? It looks like I need to replant it lower. You can see like the original kind of net where it was planted. So just to make sure that one does okay, I'm gonna just replant that a little bit deeper to ensure it survives. And here I have a little Japanese maple baby, so I might pot that up as well. And I can see a little bit of hostas coming back, which is exciting. So this bed needs to be weeded as well, so I might do that if I get a chance before I lose light. I swear, horsetail weed is the most awful weed. It just keeps going and going. This is what it looks like, and it just has runners. Just goes on and on and on, and this whole bed is infested. Actually, a lot of the garden is infested, but I did a pretty good job weeding. I planted this lower. That'll be much better. And now I've already split this hosta one time. I'm going to split it again and then replant it a little bit deeper. It's a water slide hosta, and I think it can take it. So to split it, I just put my shovel somewhere in the middle. Try to do as little damage as I can, but I want to get shoots on both sides. So probably about there, and then I just put my foot through it. Off camera because I needed both hands to hold the shovel, but you can see it's in 2 pieces now, so I can take one piece and replant it, and this piece can stay. Here's a close-up of both sides, so you can see where you have the shoots and you have roots on both sides here. I did lose this little shoot, but these are really tough plants and they grow very quickly, so I'm not worried at all. So let's take half and plant it somewhere else. Right, so this bed has been weeded. I've got the split hosta planted back in here. You can see it'll be just fine. It'll eventually get back to its big size again. I've got one on each quadrant. And then all that's left for this bed is kind of just, I think I'm gonna cardboard mulch it once the hostas are up, and then put mulch on top of the cardboard, but have to wait for the hostas to be up. So I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a water, and that's it for today. Hello, so the sun is set, so I'm losing light, so I'm just gonna wrap up for tonight and leave the cleanup for another day. Of course, that's the most tedious part of things. but it does button everything up really nicely. So let me show you what I've got accomplished today. And I think I'm proud of what I did, considering it's just me here doing all this. So we've managed to take out 2 panicle hydrangeas, one out of this pot, one out of this pot, and then we transplanted them to the shrub border, which is on this wall here. So we've got one on this end and then one just behind this below. It's a little bit harder to see. We cleaned up the bed under the bloodgood Japanese maple. We split a hosta, transplanted that into this garden bed, which is a work in progress. It's being kind of rehabbed since it was destroyed last year. So here is the hydrangea, or sorry, the hosta that I split. So I actually put 3 divisions. I did 2 other divisions the other day. So I've got a little trio here, like a swoop. And then I also transplanted, or actually not transplanted, just planted my last 2 hellebore. So I had put these 3 in earlier, and you can see they look like they're doing really well. They're upright. And then these 2 don't look that great because I just put them in today and they were very root bound. I was having trouble keeping them watered. So I had to kind of cut off the bottoms, and they look quite worse for wear right now, but they'll perk back up. I think they just needed to get out of those pots and watered. And my challenge here is the soil is just terrible. But anyways, there is progress. My pulmonaria I'd planted here at the same time I planted those 3 hellebores, and it was looking very sad. It was completely wilted. I've given it a really nice drink of water, so I'm hoping that it will perk back up, because that is pretty much a very rock solid plant, just like hosta. And it was doing well in this garden bed before. I had one in here before it got destroyed, so I think it will be okay. And the other challenge I had was when they built the wall, they kind of like left soil piled up against it. And of course I don't want it piled up against there, because then it looks weird, and also like weeds will grow on that pile. So I'll show you a sample here, even though it's getting a little bit dark. Here you can see it's kind of piled up, and of course I want it level, so I had to kind of dig that away from the wall where I planted those hellebores. So anyways, that was tedious as well, but it's a start, and everything looks like a complete mess. So I'm kind of just making this video for myself. I don't even think anyone watches my videos really, but I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how it progresses through the summer, to see how this is the destruction and before, and then we'll see what the after looks like. So wish me luck and have a great night.